guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Mail. So for today, going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He doesn't say how old he is, but I'm guessing he's got to be at least in his 40s, maybe probably 50s or so. And he's writing in to share a dose of reality when it comes to prenups. Because as most guys know, going to get married, get a prenup. Well, he makes it abundantly clear they're not so ironclad. There can be a lot of things that can get in the way of what you think has you and your assets safe, and all that, and really is trying to hit home to warn guys about that. Prenups, postnups, all that, because at the end of the day, it comes down to family courts, judges, interpretation, and all it takes is a judge having a bad day, and there goes your prenup and stuff like that. So that'd be going to go over here. It's not super long, as you can clearly see, but he writes this very well. He's got a very good sense of humor to just point out some things there that can help guys out. But in my opinion, at the end of the day, you want the safest way to protect your assets is to simply don't get married at all. But nevertheless, a lot of you guys are going to do it. And so I'm going to cover this here, and hopefully it will help some guys out there. I even titled this, The Hilarious and Painful Truth About Prenups. My marriage took 10 lawyers to die. So listen to this. He says, "Greetings, SSM. I'm the infamous man with 1 marriage and 2 divorces. I've got a story so wild even one of my co-pilots wrote a book about airline marriages, featuring yours truly. Yes, I'm the proud owner of one of the most famous divorces in my airline. Kind of like the captain of the Titanic, but in reverse. I can still hear the iceberg laughing. Before you hop on the prenup train after hearing SSM always advises getting a prenup, let me tell you this. Prenups aren't the bulletproof vest you think they are. They're more like a paper umbrella in a hurricane." Well, that's a good way to put it. I make it clear now whenever I talk about the prenups that, yes, you're going to get a prenup, obviously get one, but make sure that, that she can have a prenup too. She has her own lawyer draw up the papers, and as much as possible, make sure it's done, perhaps with witnesses, that it's not done under duress or something like that. But even then, all it takes is some ridiculous, sympathetic judge to throw the hammer at you, and there you go. So the best way to save your money and your assets and your wealth from getting it taken away from you is not get married at all and not cohabitate. It's just an unfortunate reality. He says, Chapter 1, The Great Prenup Debacle. So picture this. I've been married for 29 glorious, years, and after surviving 2 decades of in-flight turbulence, I decided it was time to write a post-nuptial agreement. But here's where it gets fun and horrifying. My ex and I actually wrote the damn thing together. So romantic, right? Even our lawyer was nervous about the whole deal. Well, if your lawyer's nervous, then I'd tell you something. He advised my ex to hire her own lawyer because, well, that's what people with foresight and functioning with brains do. There you go. That's what I said. But nope, she wasn't having it. In fact, she said, I wrote the agreement and everything I want. Well, folks, there's a red flag that should have been wrapped in a caution tape. Listen to your lawyer. The lawyer was so spooked by the whole thing that he insisted that she drive the contract down to the courthouse and file it by herself, while I was gallivanting around the world for 13 days, probably trying to remember why I thought this was a good idea in the first place. He was worried about the validity of the contract. As it turns out, he was right to be. Look, that's what these guys specialize in. You got to listen to them. Chapter 2, The Judge's Magic Wand. Let's get something straight. Prenups are not your golden ticket out of family court chaos. Family court judges are like wizards. They can make things disappear, transform assets, and conjure up reasons to invalidate your beautifully crafted prenup. It's not a magical get-out-of-alimony-free card. Instead, it's more like a VIP pass to courtroom drama show starring you, your ex, and a judge who probably skipped breakfast. Here's what they don't tell you. Prenups are designed by attorneys for attorneys. That's right, folks. These aren't the simple agreements you hope will protect you. Instead, they're likely money printing machines for lawyers. When the ex decided to challenge your postnup, When the ex decided to challenge me on the postnup, it took me 10 different lawyers to complete my single divorce. 10. That's more attorneys than I had flight attendants on most of my flights. And guess who gets the bill for all that? Spoiler alert, it's not the judge. 10 freaking lawyers to go through this whole thing. Man, I gotta tell you guys, I mean, there are things I would do if I could go back in time, But let me tell you, being a divorce attorney, having your own firm and all that, man, knowing what I know. Chapter 3, The Judge Says Nope. So there we were, sitting in the courtroom after years of marital bliss. Again, ha. And the judge looks at our prenup like it's a half-baked cookie. Warm on the outside, raw and mushy on the inside. The judge pretty much waved a magic gavel and said, "This needs more time in the oven, new trial." And just like that, all our careful planning went up in flames like the Boeing 747 with engine failure. Obviously, this guy's an airline pilot, guys. In my extensive and unwanted research, I learned that these prenups are subject to the whims of judges who are sworn to uphold state law, but often interpret in ways that can leave you feeling as if you've been hit by a truck. Judges are supposed to follow state statutes, but they're also concerned with fairness, equity, and all those good feelings that make your wallet weep. Yeah, it seems that just because it's the law of the state doesn't mean when it comes to interpretation and all that, and again, the mighty judge, they're going to do what they fucking want. And if their own personal politics and personal experiences come into play, or they're in a bad mood that day, or they don't like your fucking shirt, or they're falling for the tears of the girl, then there you go. He says, why most prenups go belly up. Here's the deal. Prenups might sound good on paper, but the reality is much different when you're standing in front of a judge who just had a fight with his spouse that morning. Judges have the power to declare prenups invalid if they think they were signed under duress. Ding, ding, ding. If assets weren't fully disclosed, or if they believe the agreement is grossly unfair. In other words, your prenup can be perfect according to the law, but if the judge thinks it smells funny, it's going to get tossed out like last week's leftovers. It is amazing the power that judges have, and what can completely make or break which judge you may get. Take it from me, a guy who's been seen the inside of more courtrooms than I care to admit. Judges are the ultimate wild card. If they think your prenup is one-sided or doesn't account for changes in circumstances, like your spouse's sudden discovery that they became a billionaire lottery winner, they can rip it up faster than you can say spousal support. Now he goes into the legal gray area where lawyers thrive. Prenups fall into the legal gray area, which is precisely where lawyers like to camp out with their marshmallows and billable hours. You see, when family law isn't black and white, there's no concrete statute that says, if this is it, this, then that. Instead, it's all about fairness, equity, and the elusive best interest standard, which can feel a lot like chasing your own tail when you're trying to figure out how your prenup got overturned. Essentially, family court is the legal equivalent of the Wild West, and your prenup is the sheriff with no backup. Bro, you're good at writing shit. You're making this very entertaining. Yep. When it comes to things that are up for interpretation, that means lots of billable hours. And for you non-lawyers out there, or lawyers that, or people that don't know any lawyers or how things operate, it's all about the billable hours. He says postnups even spicier. If you thought prenups were contentious, just wait until you dive into the world of postnup agreements. These are contracts made after marriage, aka after you've already signed up for this roller coaster, and judges are even more suspicious of them. Postnups tend to raise more eyebrows than a bad in-flight meal because they're often written after a major marital dispute, like an affair or financial crisis. It's like asking the fox to guard the henhouse after he's already had a snack. Good point. Judges are often wary of postnups because they question whether both parties truly entered the agreement voluntarily or whether one spouse was pressured into it during a vulnerable moment. Well, that's usually kind of what happens. I did a story recently where a guy, he wanted to divorce his wife, but, his lawyer warned him if you do it too quickly that, without any kind of so-called reconciliation or appearing like you're trying to fix things, it could come back to bite you in the ass. And then there was a talk about his wife wanted to do a postnup, and all this stuff like that. But the point is, the wife wanted the marriage to work out. But, get a postnup. Well, again, if the judge think it was under duress or something like that, upon an inevitable divorce, And let me tell you, those vulnerable moments can turn into years of legal drama faster than you can say, but I thought we had a deal. And years of legal drama means billable hours for the lawyers. And that means cha-ching for the lawyers. It means red in your bank account. Conclusion. Prenups are just the beginning. So here's my advice to you, and take it from someone who's been through the divorce ringer more times than a Boeing has been de-iced. Prenups and postnups are not foolproof. They're contracts, yes, but they're not set in stone. They're most like sandcastles built on the beach or a family court. Beautiful, but easily washed away when the tide or judge comes in. So the next time someone tells you SSM advises to always get a prenup, just remember to throw in the tiny disclaimer. The disclaimer is also, be prepared for the potential sequel to your divorce saga, featuring billable hours, endless court hearings, and one very grumpy judge. Or a judge that it's her, the time of the month that her special friend came to visit her. And with that, cheers from a fellow Pennsylvania survivor. I spent a lot of my life living in Pennsylvania, guys. No need to tell you my name, cloaked in the clouds. If I write my story one day, it'll be so long, you will have to do a mini-series. Plus, hire a tag team partner to give me all the smacks I earned. You are strong, but will need help. Well, bro, I appreciate you writing in. I'm sorry you went through all that BS, obviously, in your whole marriage and the situation there. But, yeah. And that's why I'm doing this video, because, yeah, prenups and postnups, not so ironclad as a lot of people think. And I try to make a point saying, if you're going to do it, you know, make sure she has her own and it can't be claimed duress. But yeah, it all depends on the freaking judge. And then there's a whole thing about interpretation and how that can drag out. But at the end of the day, the best way to protect yourself and your assets and all that is to simply not get married. You want to be a relationship guy? Great. You know, until the family courts truly are equal and it's not so one-sided. When that day comes, guys, then I'll be more inclined to say, okay, you know, things have changed. But right now, setting aside what we know about Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0 world that we're in right now and how, you know, the other half behaves, not all, but a lot, but simply just the family courts alone and how guys get the shaft on so many levels. It's just not worth it. So basically, don't play that game. Be on your own. Do you want any relationships? Great. But remember about the state laws about, you know, I can't think of the term. I always forget it when I'm on the spot here about, you know, you live with your girl for a while, and after a while they see her as your wife. I cannot think of it, but you guys will tell me 6,000 times in the comment section. But beware about that, because some places it can be really quick. She'll be living with you a short period of time, and according to the law of the state, oh, she's your wife. So you don't need to cohabitate, and there you go. So anyhow, I appreciate you writing that in, and yes, you got a good story to share about your life and your adventures? Send it in. You got a good sense of humor. You can write pretty well. You sound like a cool guy. So all stories are welcome, guys. Not all stories are great. Not all stories are going to always make it to the channel, but there's always something to learn from them. Even if there's stories when guys are acting like the biggest simp in the face of the earth, and my hand is sore as hell from smacking the shit out of them, there's something to learn. So send it in. All right, guys, that's it for today. It's a quick video, but a little info from the inside of prenups. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And any of you guys out there that have dealt with a similar thing with, you got through a divorce, thought everything was safe with your prenup, and surprise, it's up to interpretation, or you got a douchebag judge who says the hell with it. Let's hear about it in the comments section, because again, we're all here to both to be entertained and learn something to help our lives be better. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.